welcome back. It's the Muzzle Break Podcast. I'm Josh, your host, and Brian is again out on a cruise. This is like, I don't understand this. It's like kids' birthday parties or cruises. This guy, I think, is a secret, what is that, balloon magician or something like that. He ties balloon animals for people. That's the only thing I can
margin
say.
Line of work.
It might be, but this is Evan is back from Radio Made Easy. And he's here to talk to us about radio stuff, and we're going to talk about the boomer generation too.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, we're going to talk about boomers, and we're going to talk about Radio Made Easy stuff, and we're going to talk about the fact that Brian is on a cruise with 5 dudes, which is that is the Circle Jerk cruise.
Wow.
Yo. So, anyways,
you think you'll listen to this?
100%. He'll be on the cruise ship, and I'm sure his buddies will, because they all listen to this too, and they comment below. So comment below if you went on the Circle Jerk cruise and how that was. with Pride Month over, it must be very strange.
Discounted. It's like buying your fireworks after 4th.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I hope you're having fun, buddy. I hope it's not I saw on Netflix the other day that they have the documentary on the poop cruise. Do you remember that, where everybody got like dysentery and there was like 5,000 people with just dysentery? It was 2018 or something like that.
And
then it like lost power. I think that's why they all got and then other cruise ships were going past them and they're like waving and stuff like that. The side of the cruise.
Wow.
So, anyways, that was an interesting intro. We script none of this. I hope you guys at home understand that I might jot a few notes down every week, but this is 100% scripted, and I love it because the people that are watching now are starting to like generate Chat GPT stuff, like memes and things for the podcast on things that I say. And I will guarantee you guys, this is out of my mouth and I will never remember it ever again. So it makes me laugh when you guys send me stuff like weeks later about something I said and I have no context. They'll put it in my DMs and I'll be like, it's funny, but why was this generated? And they're like, something you said on the podcast.
I had that happen last week from a student. They were like, I'll never forget you said airsoft dog or something. I'm like, can you refresh my memory? I don't keep a diary of my zingers.
And they build their like whole comedic life around something you said offhand, and you're like,
they say they repeat it to each other all the time. It's like their running joke.
Yeah.
Like, man, I have left an impact on the world.
I think you, like, the first time that we met, I used the phrase, and I mean, it is one of my like I have little quips and little colloquialisms that I say all the time. But we were talking about a tough woman, and she was so tough. She's so tough that she can cook bacon with her shirt off. And your face was like, what?
I time traveled when I went and met that woman in my mind, and I have met several of those women here. In Western Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. It's not a
we're not being abundant.
We're not being sexist. It's just a creature that lives here in the woods. Yeah, in the woods.
It's a creature.
Yeah, she can typically drive an 18-wheeler.
Got CDL. She knows how to run a set of air brakes. She can cook bacon with a shirt off.
Yeah. Bear hunt with a switch and cook bacon with her shirt off,
Oh, God. I would love, there's probably a book of that stuff somewhere of like regional.
It's like the Foxfire books. Like they should have one for Western Pennsylvania. It was like the Foxfire books, but
that would be a fun project.
I'm not sure what they would call it in Western Pennsylvania, but we'll come up with a name for it.
Shirtless bacon cooking.
Yeah, the
collection.
There's always a Wanda in somebody's family in Western Pennsylvania that is just tough as freaking nails, like a two-fisted beer drinking Boilermaker. Like she's just like works for the Brotherhood of Ironworkers or something like that. Good grief, she knew Jimmy Hoffa. So, anyways, yeah. So let's just get straight into it. Like, what's going on with Radio Made Easy? Is there like new things on the horizon? I know that there's we were gonna have a class this weekend. We
And a
kind of
few
we kind
people
of got a
moved.
little over exuberant about scheduling classes, and we were like, "Yeah, let's do this," and then it was like, "Oh wait, that's the 4th of July. We should just be like chilling with our families and
Right.
stuff, and like not trying to make it." So we do appreciate the people that signed up for that, and we do appreciate you guys being committed. You will be in the fall class that we're
Right.
having, and
Definitely made it up to those guys.
yeah, yeah. I haven't, and you guys, if you are watching, thank you, and
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know, thank you, Evan, for being a stand-up business owner and making sure that they are taken care of. So I do appreciate that.
No, it'll. The thing with our classes is like it's not a financial thing purely as far as like I would teach 1 or 2 people, but it's
Sure.
not a great experience without
Correct.
6 to 10. You really need that
Right.
kind of for critical mass. It's just more fun. There's more to do. So
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, as I speak to this, you know, we have lots of trainers come out and use the range for instruction. And Evan is one of the few instructors that actually puts the time and the money to recruit people that are around here. And I mean, I know I have a certain customer base, right?
Sure.
And that will saturate out over a couple of years.
Yeah.
But Evan does a good job about regionally making it a point to focus on the advertising and things like that around that
we
makes it
target
possible. Yeah,
this
it's like
side of the state and Eastern Ohio, and we'll do targeted marketing to try to fill it up.
and if you're a trainer and you're listening to me out there, it's your responsibility to fill your class. Like,
Sure.
right? Like, it's not my responsibility as a host. Like, I'm here to host and to make you
Sure.
comfortable and like.
At the very least, it's a shared responsibility.
Yeah. At the very least, it's a shared responsibility. And I found that most of these guys just want me to like carry the water.
Sure.
And I'm like, I'm already carrying the water by like, you know, building ranges and
Right.
doing, you know, carrying the boats here.
That's
So
valuable.
yeah. So we appreciate him, and we're looking forward to the fall classes too, because we'll be offering for the first time the tactical radio operators course, and that is already somewhat full.
Yeah, I think we have 4 dudes already committed, and probably 4 more verbally committed. But that one is purely scenario. So if you have to have 0 to hero to take it, and that's mainly just so we don't have to spend time covering things that we can actually do stuff for 2 days. So we do 2 full days of running scenarios, and it's pretty fun. So it's a purely hands-on class instead of 0 to hero is probably half and half lecture and scenario, or half and half lecture and hands-on. Tactical radio operator is all hands-on. So and you'll get to do all the stuff we just talk about in the first class. So it's cool. It's a blast, and this area will be unique. You know, we've done it in urban settings, suburban, and rural. So, you know, it'll be pretty unique to this particular area, which will be fun. So if you've had, you know, if you're listening, any alumni of 0 to hero, you know, nationwide can come out here. But especially if you've already done it out here in Stoneboro or you live in this area, you'll kind of learn, you know, what is area specific.
Sure.
So,
and we have some real challenges here in Western Pennsylvania. That's not.
There's good things, there's bad things.
Yeah.
But things are further apart out here. That's one of the main things. So you learn real quick that you have to put in the work to make comms. If you're gonna have to go on the road to go get something, you're going to go dark if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, and because we have a lot of like pretty drastic elevation changes, and things are, you know, the population centers in Western Pennsylvania all congregate around bodies of water. Like that's just that's how societies build things. And the interesting thing about Western Pennsylvania is we're kind of stuck in a time period, right? So like there's not a ton of there was a ton of industrialization, turn of the century,
right,
up until about the 60s, and then the steel mills started going away, and like kind of the whole side of the state kind of froze, right?
yeah.
And so it's really kind of a good thing for somebody to learn. If you live out even in central Pennsylvania, it's like even worse. Like
Yeah.
they are, you can get lost out there. Like
Yeah.
legit people die in the middle of Pennsylvania. People look at a map and they say, Pennsylvania is a tiny New England state, right? Like we're not a New England state, but they look at it and we've got New York above you,
Right.
you got Maryland below you, which looks like a sliver, right?
Yeah.
And then you have all the New England states that all look very like if you took Pennsylvania on a map and squared it up to a New England state north of New York, you would say, "Oh, those are very similar."
Yeah.
But no,
deceiving.
To travel across Pennsylvania takes 6.5 hours, if not 7.
Yeah.
And the middle of the state is Appalachia. I mean, we live in Appalachia, and it is like,
Yep.
There's some dark places like comms wise in the middle of our state, for sure. And Peter lived out there for a little while with in-state college. I mean, did you venture out like in the woods much?
Yeah, there's some cool trails and
but you get outside of State College or even Harrisburg, there is nothing.
Yeah, the Allegheny, even an hour from here, Allegheny National Forest, you better know where you're going.
Yeah, or you'll get lost. There's like 4 million acres of public land.
Kidnapped by an Amish family.
Converted. You come out like sprechen Sie Deutsch. Yeah,
making furniture and
Mm-hmm.
I talked to my grandparents yesterday, and I was like, "You need anything from Amish country?" Because I grew up. They have these magnets they got from Pennsylvania Amish country, and then
they love it.
But I'd never been out here. Like they made one trip out here, probably in the '80s or something.
Yeah, and they loved it, huh?
Well, I mean, it's one of those landmark things in their life.
Yeah,
and but we've been out here like 10 times now. But I always ask, what do you need from Amish country?
Yeah, what'd they say?
They don't
nothing. Like nothing. You can get more magnets if you want. That's hilarious. But Amish, stuff is like hit or miss, like anything else. And they typically have pretty good quality control. So any of you Amish that are watching the podcast tonight,
we love you.
Vasta Hanga is my question to you, and you guys can respond in kind. My whole Amish audience laughed at that joke that I just told.
Yeah,
they all did.
Even that guy who came in wanted a Glock that shot 357 Magnum.
Yeah. Did I say that to him too? And he no. He was ex-Amish because
he was not. He was fresh off.
Yeah, he was fresh over the fence, right? So like you
fresh
can
off
tell
the horse and buggy.
Yeah. You can tell because like they get kicked out. Like if you decide to go English, it's like it would be like giving a child like keys to a car and a bank account. You're like, here's society, and like they're like
overwhelmed.
It's just this I mean,
it's got to be like a whole new world.
Well, I mean, he was looking for a Glock and 357 mag, and he was pissed that
we were lying to him.
He's like, you damn English. Yeah. You're keeping your secrets. I'm ex-Amish.
I was told 357 Magnum Glock. And you're telling me you're a gun store. You don't have that?
Yeah. I liked how you were like shocked at how indignant he was with me. And I was just like...
It was amazing.
Yeah, I was like, he just doesn't know. It's just, he's just new. He did think 357 SIG, and I told him that, and he was like, nope. I was like, he's like, the revolver round, and I'm like, it doesn't exist, bro. Like, nobody has that except for Desert Eagles. And I tried to kept telling him, like, you're thinking of a Desert Eagle, and he's like, no, it's a Glock. You're wrong. And I'm like, you've been English for 5 seconds, dude. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, good luck.
Is that the only thing that like you think is bizarre around here? Is like no, you come up here all the time and you're just constantly like laughing about like
the people are very different.
yeah. But it's all funny because we're all Appalachian Americans, right? No, but I don't think so. Like, because I think that you kind of grew up in the sticks of
Yeah.
North Carolina, and that's a different culture altogether.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
But we're nice to each other. You don't have
Oh
that
yeah,
here.
you come across the
There's no
Mason-Dixon
niceness.
line, and we are like, we're just absolutely.
Yeah.
I lived in Missouri for a while, and those people out, like, what the Midwest culture is like. It's very like, oh, just give you a hug, like, it's very much like how my wife is,
Mm-hmm.
very like, oh, friendly and
Mm-hmm.
welcoming and coming, and like
potentially the best.
Yeah, and potentially my wife or my roommate in college, Dan, he was from Colorado, but we had a bunch of Midwestern people there, and they were constantly like, "What is wrong with Josh? Why is he so mean to everybody?" I'm like, "I'm not mean. I'm not being mean. I'm just being like funny."
It feels mean when you're not acclimated. It's like
yeah.
all the social lubrication is removed.
yeah.
It's just harsh.
I think
it's like
it's
a 80 grit sandpaper.
Well, but so I was watching. Do you subscribe to that? Do you follow that? What is it called? I posted something from it. The Grim TV.
I don't think so.
It's got he kind of looks like he's maybe AI generated or something.
Okay.
It's like an older man, and he talks about the man that calls you out basically, and he's not being mean. It's part of the Slavic and Germanic cultures. Okay,
right,
so like
right.
my
There's family. A lot of that here.
Yeah, my family and most of the people that immigrated to Western Pennsylvania are Slavic, right? So like my family's Croatians, all right, and Irish, so those are all Germanic tribes that were basically so it's just the way that those, and we have certain colloquialisms, like as far as if you go to closer to Pittsburgh, you've got Yinzers, like people that speak this weird like water and redden up the house.
You wash your clothes.
Wash your clothes and redden up the house.
Okay,
and
so
they get in the city chicken.
Some of that's kind of redneck too.
I don't know that it's redneck. They do. There's like, what's that called when you do a study about language and the way that it develops?
Dialectics or
etymology or something like that, where they're talking about basically how words are formed, and it's all because it came out of that Slavic region that we have all these weird kind of accent things. My wife used to make fun of it, but the Dutch settled kind of her neck of the woods, that mid-northern, and like her parents, and they're probably watching, and I love you, mom and dad, but like they sound like, and they swear that they don't, but the lady from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles say, "Oh, how you doing today?" Don't you know? And they're like, "That's not us. That's more northern."
That does get more aggressive
as you go north. Yeah. So it's just kind of fun but that's all Dutch influence. That's why they sound like that.
Is like, I grew up, I had never been beyond Nashville, Tennessee, or Orlando, Florida. Like that was it.
The South.
Now we live on the road. So we might have visited other places in my 20s, but now we're there for days. So we really get to experience it. And we have a vast country, like geography and culture. It covers quite a spectrum. So
what would you say is your favorite like kind of regional like area to go visit? Like maybe not like you would say, just that it's like interesting and you think it's like just very like kind of strange and interesting to be around.
Culture.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's I mean, we really do enjoy Midwestern people. Like me and my wife both comment on that every time we go. It's just like they have some of the traits of a Southerner without the BS.
Right.
But the kindness is there, but it feels more genuine.
Yeah.
And they're hardworking. They have more grit because they have to survive these insane winters. We don't have that.
Right.
I think culturally we resonate with that a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's farm culture, right? So like if you're a farmer, you have to cooperate with your neighbors or you'll go out of business and die, right? Like that's kind of the whole, that's the subculture. And it's very cash based too. So like typically cash is something that's transferred during like physical labor activities as opposed to like day traders or somebody in a business suit is going to do very non relational transactions,
Yeah.
with stuff. So, yeah, it is. And I don't miss the Midwest all that much. It's not really my favorite area, but
Well, we get to kind of LARP into each zone.
Right,
so
right,
It's kind of fun in that way that we're never there for long enough to get too annoyed. But
right, yeah, exactly.
But we spend a bunch of time all over the place. That's kind of the name of the game for Radio Made Easy right now. Is just it's road trip lifestyle. Like, if you look at the calendar, it's just like zigzag back and forth across the country, and that's what people want, and that's what's paying the bills, and it's a blast. We're in Oklahoma 2 days ago, 1,000 miles away.
And
packed out classes there, and I'm happy. I mean, I think that's kind of one distinguishing trait of this company from others like it is, those that are in the same space is they may do 4 or 5 classes a year, 2 or 3 places, and you just gotta, there's no chance it's coming within a day's drive. You're gonna make a haul,
right,
a pilgrimage, and we are near just about anyone at some point in the year. So being full-time at this, any kind of trainer, it's a difference. Like, some are part-timers, some are, but we're on the road constant. So,
well, I think I think that the big thing with you though in the coming years is that the fact that you're so personal with the customer base that you have is going to make a continuation of your business grow, because they feel like that they've kind of entered in your family in some way, shape, or form. That we were talking about Clint and Heidi at Thunder Ranch. They're very much like that. That's what the way that they build their building is, or their business is, that they've got this very familial kind of bring you in and let you into their world for a very brief period of time, like a weekend, and then you're kind of released, and you might not see them for 2 or 3 years, but there's that very intense connection that you've made on a brief weekend.
I have that, and that for inspiration really through you sharing that with me, and then Tactical Response did a great job of, like, it felt like you had entered into a family or an alumni that meant something. Like, it was an honor to be inducted into that.
Right.
And I've tried to create our version of that. It's not, the difference is that we're not teaching the warrior lifestyle, right? It's like we're teaching how to be a communicator.
Sure.
And I think it's probably more useful on a daily basis.
It's
100%. Not quite as honor filled as
and sexy.
it's not
It's not as
but
sexy,
it's still something I aspire to give back. Is like, we have a community. You get a lot of benefits as an alumnus that I won't mention. You have to come to class to find out what those are, but I really try to take care of the students after they've ponied up to come to a class. It's like, I've got what I need from you now, and I don't intend to take from you at this point. We're going to give back. So,
you're a very, very talented teacher in the way that you communicate effectively the principles that are needed, and it's really funny the resistance that you have from the ham radio community because of the fact that you're not pushing a licensure with the community. You're actually doing what they should be doing, and that's creating interest, right? Like, so like,
this is why the DMV is not at the car dealership.
Correct.
It's a separate place.
Right. It sucks, right? Like, so
Ford
like
doesn't worry about teaching you how stop signs work. They show you how cool the truck is.
Exactly. Like, nobody cares about your rule book. Like, if you guys are ham radio operators that are listening to this, and you think that rule book that you guys test on is kind of like this badge of honor or whatever, like this, dude, you guys are foolish to think that is the attractive part of the radio communications thing. No, it's not. It's the practical application. It's the gear. Like, there's tons of really cool stuff that's coming out that you guys are just taking for granted because you've been involved in it for so long and kind of saturated in it. There's people that want to know this information, and they want to know it in a way that's relatable, because it's not going to be a pastime for most people. It's not going to be a pastime. I don't bore people when they come into the shop with all the little ancillary things that I know about firearms, right? So like I have a volume of knowledge in firearms that surpasses 98% of people. There's probably 2% of people that could talk above me about firearms.
Sure.
But I don't bombard people with that information. I try to succinctly give it to them, and it's met with resistance quite a bit because, like Uncle Bob or whatever that lives, you know, down the street,
You're
taught
dealing
them
with his urban legends.
Dude, he's like,
all you need is a 12 gauge with birdshot.
Yeah, birdshot and 12 gauge inside your house, and you rack the slide, and everybody goes scattering everywhere. Yeah. No, they don't.
I would lose my mind having to listen to that.
Oh, I literally listened to it yesterday.
I know you do.
I literally every freaking day. Okay, what's the best thing for home defense? Shotgun. Wrong. Like Clint's a great one to talk about shotgun. They are like kind of the masters of shotgun classes at Thunder Ranch. Okay, the right range, the right distance, to the right load. Okay, it's right. So like, tool. Yeah, it's a very complicated tool that everybody thinks, oh, it's just a tube and you can't miss. Like you can miss
in your house. You're gonna miss.
You can miss. You can kill somebody that you didn't mean to kill with your shotgun. Like it's an extremely powerful weapon. But
I love his quote about, you know, what each gun does.
Yeah. Pistols put holes in people, rifles put holes through people, shotguns at the right range with the right ammunition, you know, tear a chunk of shit off you that you gotta shovel up, you know, off your opponent that you gotta.
Has to be one of the most iconic.
No, it's great. You know, and that's so succinct, right? Like it gives you a ton of information.
I aspire to be that for radio, but I'm trying real hard. It's just, I don't have the raspy.
Yeah. You gotta like take a 4-wheeler and then drop
about 8 packs a day.
Well, most of that's from him bombing a 4-wheeler off of a cliff and
that's
breaking
not
his
an option.
neck.
I gotta smoke. There is something to that, the beautiful simplicity of being able to say something, and that honestly is where most the ham guys are gonna miss. Like, how do you articulate this in a consumable way? Even when they try, they don't, and they'll learn eventually. But you got to really make an effort to make it accessible,
right?
And that's all we're doing.
And I don't understand why you wouldn't want to pass along information. Like I want to pass. So, they're probably watching George and Gerald. I call them the G unit. Okay, they're about 70, mid 70s. Okay, George is Mr. Muzzleloader from Shooting USA. Okay, so he has a ton of videos online.
Oh, cool.
He's a wealth of knowledge. We trade all kinds of information back and forth because he doesn't know. He's quite on the edge of what. And Gerald is another guy that's very, very skilled with the craftsmanship of firearms, and he can repair things, and he can do some old school things that they did with muzzleloaders like hundreds of years ago. But those guys pass that knowledge on to the people around them, whether people are appreciated it or not. It's kind of lost. The gun community is a very tribal community where we talk about things, and things then get lost if we don't pass them on. So like, let's stop the infighting and like the name calling and I mean, if we want to bust each other's stones, like I think that's hilarious, but like let's just take it for what it is comedy, right? And so these guys take all this time. Like my son will come into the shop and they've always got something for him. They've always got something about older gun information for my son.
Where that came from today? Okay.
Yeah. And and he's inspired. He looks at this stuff and he wants to know about the history. It's like it stirs up in him this desire for knowledge. It's like, go and do that with people for radio. Like if you're an old radio operator listening to me right now, find a little kid, buy him a Baofeng radio and show him the magic, right? Like inspire the people, because if not, all this culture is going to die, I don't know. It's a shame. So
I think we're doing the Lord's work on making sure that doesn't happen, but just clicked over to 700 alumni this past weekend.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I remember. I always tell people, and this is not a brag. It's like a little bit of a name drop and a brag. But like when we first started talking, you probably had like 80, maybe 100 followers, maybe 100 followers
on Instagram. Yeah,
and I was like, "Hey, can you do it?" And you were like, "You need to get me like 7 people." And I'm like, "Gosh, dang, how am I gonna convince 7 people to spend money?" And
I got bullied.
Yeah, well, and
one right here.
Peter, you know, is a result of the camaraderie that you built through that class. Like I didn't really know Peter all that much. I don't know how did Peter? Did I convince you to come to that class? We didn't really have a relationship until after that.
More of like I stopped here once a month, traveling through.
Yeah, with your dad.
Yes, and we stopped with my dad and. Just
you just thought it was interesting, so you try to
and we talked about different things like kind of like self-defense, preparedness, that type of thing, and then you were like, hey, there's a radio class, would you be interested? And I was always kind of interested in it, but like Evan always talks about, I didn't know how to do anything.
It was a good group of guys, that first group here.
Yeah, it was absolutely a ton of fun, and like all of those people have come back to do more training, and they've all had a great time here, and I encourage you guys, if you have a class for Evan close to you, please go. He's a masterful teacher. He really is. It's just not the technology that you know and understand. It's the way that you convey that information is the thing that because like we were laughing about people saying you should go into stand-up comedy, right? Because like your delivery is great, like it is, but you're not a stand-up like a stand-up comic can go in and just be like say funny things like all the time, like off the cuff, right? Like you have a very planned, prepared execution of things, which is in stand-up comedy as well, but it's a very polished thing, but that he thinks about a lot because you're a very
you have to laugh
people.
Or you're not. There's so much to keep attention. Like I take a lot of care to make it engaging,
right?
And you're just not gonna find that with this subject matter anywhere. Like people don't care about your engagement. They're gonna drench you with as much as they can give you to wow you, and it just doesn't work.
No.
I would rather get you 20-30% of that material, but you mastered it.
Right.
You can go learn the rest.
Sure.
But you got to have help the first
first
quarter of it. You got to have your hand held. I needed mine held. It took me like 5 years to figure it out without having a mentor.
Sure.
And so I can get you what took me 5 years in 2 days.
Right.
So,
but and I mean, it does cause like this last year got my technicians. It's technicians, right? Yeah, it's technician's license here. Why did I do that? Well, it's like because like I wanted to understand more what was going on, and now because I had listened, like I took the course once, and then I listened to the course probably like half dozen, well, more than that, half dozen times at least, and that like kind of inspired me. It's like I'd like to kind of dive a little bit deeper so I can get a little bit more practical information, going on. But you can't have that if you don't, start somewhere. Unfortunately, we talked about what we want to talk about in this podcast like a couple of days ago. It's like, well, I want to talk about radio stuff because that's like your business, and I want to talk about the boomer generation.
Right.
Why is that? Okay, because the boomer generation was really the generation that kind of made the architecture of what we're looking at in the radio community. Okay, so
that's emblematic of
their generation. Of their generation. So like they're very good at making a very, very complicated system that's hard to break into, and then they gatekeep the shit out of it, and they're like, no, we're not going to turn over the keys, we're just going to let it freaking cruise into the mountainside and not like give any responsibility to the younger generation. So like I hope that there are older people, boomer generation people listening to this, because it's not just the radio community that's affected by this. I see it playing out in our culture.
Everything.
Very,
Well,
very, very close.
Those gentlemen you mentioned are countercultural.
They're an exception.
But that's my biggest gripe, is that is not the norm, is that information is not getting passed, and it will be lost. And my family, like when I say my family, me and my wife with my children, have had to start from ground zero on way too much.
Right.
Like, if you compare that to every generation prior, there was a more direct handoff that just got missed.
Right.
Like, glaringly, not subtly. Like, we're talking like huge pieces of what would be handed down that's just taken for granted and forgotten.
Right.
So it's hard. We shouldn't have to start from scratch. That should be rare. Like, you should get a leg up. You should get, empowered and mentored into adulthood and into fatherhood and into marriage and into being a man or a woman. Like, that stuff should be very intentionally transitioned over to you. And I think the boat was missed quite a bit with that torch getting passed.
Well,
how many metaphors can I mix in here?
But I think what I think happened, because I've thought about that a lot, is the institutionalization of our education system. Okay,
absolutely.
So like in the 60s, the boomers decided that we were going to build public schools, right? So they got the Board of Education started. They got all these public schools. The one room schoolhouse was demolished, and we built a public education system. That was centered around the Prussian school of
build manufacturing workers.
Right, exactly. And so when kind of the industrialization of the United States went away, they kind of scrambled and said, "Hey, we still need people to work for us in our retirement so that they could support us, right? So let's make these bigger secondary education systems that we can just pour everybody into, and they will finish off in a very corporate way our children, so that they can go into a corporate structure and support us, right? Well, it was a great master plan with the very wrong idea that we needed 100 middle management people,
right, for every two people that work,
right? So it's like, okay, guys, like, we didn't fucking figure the math out on this one, right? So like, now we got a bunch of people that want to be the CEO of everything, right? And we don't have a bunch of the worker ants anymore.
They were all told, if you just go to college.
We were told that. Yeah, we were told that. Gen X was really, really, Gen X was really told that.
I remember it like yesterday, sitting in my 7th grade geometry class with them coming in and saying, "You need to be on the path to college," because that's I believed it hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah. And my college education was very, very different than most people's. So it would be much more in line with like what's called classical liberalism. Yeah. Okay. We studied a lot of like the arts, as far as literature goes, right? Yeah. We didn't study.
You got an actual education.
Right. So, but most people will go and they'll go take, lesbian dance theory or 101, like a bunch of these nonsensical like filler things. All right. And there's not a lot of practical stuff going on. Like, if you're a tradesman, you don't need to be going to a college. You need to be having a journeyman project. Like, your dad needs to teach you how XYZ, thing works. Right. And so they thought if we could put them into the school, that they would gain the information that takes work for us,
right,
into our retirement to teach. Okay. If we can just pawn them off into the school, they can teach it. We can get a leg up, and we can drink Mai Tais on the beach until we're dead. Right. Like, I love talking to boomers about their retirement is the thing that they guard. Like, it is the holy cross of their existence.
Generation that'll ever have that.
Yeah. And Peter, I hate to say it, but like, I think you're gonna probably be working longer than you were told, right? Like,
but yeah, I look at it all the time till like the day I die. I always say.
But I know you have a much different work ethic than a lot of your generation has, right? Okay, but
some are good. Like Evan said earlier,
He's Gen X, 100%.
But I remember
it's useless, like tits on a bull.
But anyway,
there's another one for the book.
Yeah. But like Evan said, my dad, I mean, he grew up kind of hard. His sisters didn't go to college. He went, he got a job. He loved all this stuff, pension. He got out of the steel mills, that he worked on the railroad, all that. But, fast forward to my son, he's like, how do you know how to put the new bathroom in or wire up the new room or hang drywall? I'm like, because my dad, he was off in the summers. He was a teacher and he would do that on the side. And it's just doing that. And
you're fortunate.
Yeah. Right. I'm really thankful for that. But some of the kids, even my son's generation and his friends, they don't know how to run a screw gun.
Oh, they can't.
They can't start a freaking lawnmower or a weed whacker or change the oil. They have no idea.
And it's real easy to come down hard on those kids, but there's nobody to come down hard on worse than who raised them.
Right. Yeah.
Which is the public school system.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only people that raised them.
Correct.
They got outsourced.
Yeah. And so like, that if you're a boomer out there and you're watching this podcast, forget about your retirement.
They're steaming right now.
Forget about your retirement, okay, and invest that in your kids. Like the Puritans had like the Pilgrims, the Puritans, the Quakers, all those guys had a one uniform thought. We are going to forge ahead as far as we can, and we're going to die. And when we fall face first in the mud or the snow, our kids are going to build their futures on top of our backs, right? Like that should be the goal for every generation. We laugh and talk about the Amish and how backwards they are in society around here, but the fact is that they've continued on that generation, and they don't retire until they're absolutely disabled and they need to just stay home. And the reason they do that is to see their future generations propelled forward. And now these guys will walk into a place cash in hand and buy a farm for millions of dollars for cash, cash I worked for because my dad showed me how to cut trees down.
Right.
Boom, right? So like that's like the big thing.
If you have those skills now, you are literally sitting on a gold mine.
Right. I mean,
the world is getting less and less capable every minute.
Right. Yeah. People
that can take their hands and do things with them.
Right. So I was really fortunate that my father was very good at passing, he wasn't good at necessarily passing the information, but having me involved with whatever we were doing, and he would expose me to that, and he would say, "Hey, this is what goes on, and you should probably learn how to do this." Right. I don't know that he was an overly great teacher in showing me how to do that kind of stuff, but he would actually like discuss and talk to me about the theory of what was going on, and I do that with my own son too. I'm like, tractor stuck in the field. Guess what? We're going out there together, and he's 8, right? He's not real capable about stuff, but he's at least being exposed around me, and I'm like, and he'll ask questions. Why is this? Okay, we'll have like 20-30 minutes of like intense conversation about something that we're doing, and it's not to teach him everything. It's just to expose him and to get him interested in doing something, And he's very creative. He'll go into his room for hours and build stuff. Yeah. Why? Because that's being modeled to him in my time off. You know what I mean?
What it is. I mean, I think I remember there's probably been about 3 or 4 men in my life. I told my wife this years ago. I'll never forget when it occurred to me. It was when James died, James Yeager.
Yeah.
I realized the people in my life that had the biggest impact, the men that had the biggest impact, the way I felt around them was fearless. Because I felt like it's not that they were all knowing or all capable. It was just that I knew whatever happened, they'd find a way.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, it wasn't that they already knew the answer. Right. It was just they had enough know-how and connections and money and experience that it didn't matter.
Right.
Like, we could do anything.
Right.
And that's what you show your kid when you go fix something in the middle of the field is like, well, Dad can fix anything, and it's delusional for an 8-year-old. But you're inspiring him to become that and making it like, well, you can learn everything, you can fix anything. It's like a can-do invincible mentality, and I had no exposure to that.
Yeah.
Early, and then I mean, my grandpa kind of, but not an immediate family.
Yeah.
But I was blessed to meet like 3 or 4 incredible men that showed me that was a thing, and that's what I aspire to be. That
Sure.
is like the people around me know. Well, if Evan's here, we'll be fine.
Sure. Yeah.
And they are sorely wrong.
Right. Yeah.
But at least that's the vibe it gives off, and I do aspire to figure stuff out.
Sure.
And I always have. But man, that would be amazing to be able to pass that on.
Yeah, I think that I see a lot of men in our age demographic doing that with their kids. But the other thing is too with your kids. This is unfortunately kind of where my growing up kind of had not. I didn't have a bad childhood by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not faulting my parents, but there was a common theme and there's been a common theme in the boomer generation is they were raised up from a generation that exposed them to hardship, right?
Sure.
And so the greatest generation understood hardship, and they were willing to expose the boomer generation to that hardship. But the boomer generation was like, we don't like this, and we're going to try to keep our kids from being exposed to hardship. Right. Okay.
Get out of the bubble wrap.
Unfortunately, life has a way of kicking the shit out of you, whether you've been bubble wrapped or shielded from that stuff. So you should have your kids watch you struggle. Right. Like that's the other thing too, is like my parents were very good about keeping the struggle behind closed doors. And I think that, and not that I fault them, they thought that they were doing, they thought they were doing the best for me and my sister. Right. And I don't fault them for that, but I think
I've heard of couples that have never had an argument or a disagreement in front of children too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That same idea where it's like we shield them from the exposure to struggle stuff. Yeah.
And I like, we've been out, like my kids have been out like on the farm, and like they're like, what do we do next? I'm like, I have no idea. This is a really shitty situation. Yeah. Like I literally said to him the other day, I'm like, well, we're up Shit Creek without a paddle, and he is like, where's Shit Creek? You know, like he needs to learn that panic, but he needs to learn that like, okay, there's panic involved. Like I'm much more of an expressive personality. Like to be like you and I are like polar opposites as far as we're opposites in the outward expression. Yeah. The internal though, we're brothers in arms in that sense that we have this idea like, okay, shit is flying apart right now, but we can manage and solve this in through the struggle, right? So like I said to him, you know, like, oh, we're up Shit Creek, and he's like, where's Shit Creek? And he came over to mom like later that night. He's like, Dad was swearing, and I'm like, she's like, yeah, it wasn't a real good situation. He's like, he told me about Shit Creek. That's awesome. And he's like, this was like days later. He comes to me, and it was just me and him. Mom and the girls were off camping, and he's like, explain to me, like, he didn't say explain to me, but he was just like, what is Shit Creek? Like, he was like still like mulling Shit Creek in his mind. And I'm like, okay, bud, like, think about this. We're in a boat, okay, in a river, but that river isn't water. It's just shit. And he was like,
and you got no paddle.
Oh, and then I'm like, and then take the paddles out of it. So we can't get out. And he's like, oh, right. Like that weekend he learned a lot of stuff. Cause like Peter, he was out hatcheting in the woods, like, and chopping trees down and building little buildings and stuff like that. He was just having like a ton of fun. Right. Cause like mom was gone and she wasn't going to and I'm like, not the person that's just like hovering around my kids all the time. I just refuse to do that. Sure. But like I kind of generally know where they're at all times. But I gave him a hatchet. He's 8. I gave him a hatchet, which most people would be like, that's like irresponsible. But we've talked about all this stuff, and he's cut himself. He knows what happens. Like if he knows all the response. So he's out cut.
And a radio.
He's just like, and a radio. And he had a radio. We had a radio. I mean, we use that. Like, it's strapped to his side all the time.
I believe it.
And he's out cutting, and Peter rolls in for the podcast. Okay. and
You told him to do that.
I
shit.
did not. 100% did not. He sees Peter.
I don't know
He
about
sees
this.
Peter pull into the driveway. Okay, and he sees him from the woods. And Peter has this tendency to like be on his phone, like dealing with orders or whatever, as he pulls into somewhere. Like I get it. Okay, so he's answering messages or something, and Judah crawls across the parking lot, and Peter opens up his door, and he's like, Peter, and Peter says, motherfucker, and so Judah runs away, and he comes into the shop, okay, and his eyes are this big because nobody's ever like swore at him like in that way. Like his eyes are this big, and I'm like, what's up, buddy, are you okay? And he's like, Peter just called me the F word.
Well, you might have brought this on yourself.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that's like, I think that was a great interaction for him to have, because it enters him into the world of manhood, right? Like, so like, yeah, if you scare a man, there's repercussions to that. You might get called the F word. But you also might get shot.
I like to hear that. I mean, he's got, some of these kids have such a cool opportunity with the parents, but I wonder about the rest of them. But we can't do anything about everybody's kids.
No, but you all have opportunity to do pass knowledge on to your kids. They will enter a level of adventure, and don't stop looking at them and saying, you need to go do this, right? Like, you need to go to college. No, you don't. That's a scam. Stop sending your kids to college, okay? What they need to go do is learn something and learn how to learn, right? Like, and that is your responsibility as an adult to your kids. Learn how to learn, right?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of done preaching at the parents and the boomers. It's more like to encourage encourage the victims, like go find some adventure. Go find one of those guys, like what'd you call the pair of 70-year-old muzzleloader guys?
Oh, the G unit.
The G unit. Yeah, like, go find your local G unit and excavate this stuff out of them. There's some, but I mean, thank God we have the internet. Thank God we have this treasure trove of, we don't have to have a person. We can go take classes.
Right, exactly. You'll meet
awesome opportunity.
Yep.
You meet the best people on earth in training classes.
Yep, absolutely.
Because and I tell my students this all the time. It's like when I look out into a room full of people that paid hundreds of dollars to admit that they're a zero, because it's called zero to hero. It's like, I already know I'm dealing with a great room of people, right? Like, you've already humbled yourself. You've sacrificed to be here. So I know, and if that's who's going to show up to classes, people that want to learn. That'd be a great way to make those connections. But I'm kind of over begging the boomers to change at this point.
It's not
the old dog isn't learning new tricks. They're going to burn it down. Every ounce of this rainforest will be deforested, and we'll have to live with the consequences.
Right.
So I'm kind of over it. I've accepted that's how they're going to be. And
right.
Of course, there's exceptions. I'm blessed to have known many of them, but I think they've kind of done as much damage as they've done. It has been very inspirational for me and my family. So it's like, I'm sure I would have made very different choices if some of that hadn't happened. So I would never change it.
Well, I appreciate you coming out on the podcast. I think we covered some good topics. Peter, do you have anything else to say, or do you need
a good hangout?
Yeah, I have a lot to say, but
thank you,
we don't
Peter,
have that.
For
all right, well,
zero.
Peter, we're out of time, so we can't really talk to you.
I just hate that I missed the whole Lenten season with Peter, because I just all the fish sandwich discussions, and I am here listening every week.
Well, I appreciate it, buddy. I do appreciate you. I appreciate your family. I appreciate what you offer to the
it's
to the community. And
we'll be back in November, so don't miss your chance. Use code Griffin Arms.
Appreciate it.